There are secrets that nations bury so deep they become myths, whispers that echo through centuries, dismissed as slander, as impossible rumors, as the desperate lies of political enemies. But what happens when the impossible becomes undeniable? When DNA doesn't lie? When historical records align perfectly like pieces of a puzzle no one wanted to solve? When the descendants of both the powerful and the powerless tell the same story across 2 centuries? In the rolling hills of Virginia, there stands a mansion called Monticello, beautiful, iconic, a monument to American genius and enlightenment. But beneath its elegant columns, within its carefully preserved rooms, behind the gardens that Thomas Jefferson himself designed, there lived a secret so disturbing, so contradictory to everything its owner claimed to believe, that it would take nearly 200 years for America to face the truth. A secret involving 38 years of silence, 6 children born into slavery who looked remarkably like the President of the United States, and a woman who had no legal power to say no. This is not a story about monsters or demons. This is something far more unsettling, far more real, far more human in its cruelty. This is a story about a man who wrote that all men are created equal while owning over 600 human beings throughout his lifetime. A man who publicly mourned his wife's death while privately continuing a relationship with her enslaved half-sister. A woman who had no rights, no voice, no choice. A man whose words shaped a nation and inspired revolutions around the world, while his actions revealed the darkest contradictions of his time and of ours. If you're fascinated by the dark, hidden corners of American history, by the secrets that shaped this nation, by the contradictions that still haunt us today, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. And I'm curious, where are you listening from? Drop your state or city in the comments. Let's see how far these stories reach. How many of us are ready to face the uncomfortable truths of our past? Now, let me take you back to a time when America was young, when the ideals of liberty and the reality of slavery existed side by side, when one man could write about freedom while denying it. To the people closest to him, the year was 1772. Thomas Jefferson, 29 years old, married Martha Wales Skelton on New Year's Day. She was 23, a wealthy widow, refined, educated, and by all accounts, the love of his life. Their marriage was rare for Virginia's gentry, a genuine love match in an era of calculated alliances. They played music together for hours, read to each other, and debated philosophy. But Martha brought more than love to Monticello. When her father, John Wales, died in 1773, she inherited a fortune, 11,000 acres, 135 enslaved people, and crushing debts that would haunt Jefferson forever. Among those 135 enslaved people was the Hemmings family. They were described as bright mulattoes, people of mixed African and European ancestry. The matriarch, Elizabeth Hemmings, had 12 children. 6 of them, including a girl named Sally, were fathered by John Wales himself. This made Sally Hemmings, who arrived at Monticello as property, Martha Jefferson's half-sister. They shared a father but lived in different worlds, Martha in the mansion, Sally in the shadows. Sally was about 9 years old when she arrived at Monticello. Virginia in the 1770s was a place of stark, brutal contradictions. In plantation drawing rooms, men debated liberty and natural rights. Outside, they gave orders to human beings. They owned people who could be bought, sold, and bred under a law called partus sequitur ventrum. The child follows the condition of the mother. It didn't matter if your father was a master, a gentleman, or a future president. If your mother was enslaved, so were you. Thomas and Martha Jefferson had 6 children together, but each pregnancy weakened Martha. After the birth of their last child in 1782, she was dying. Jefferson rarely left her bedside. Their daughter, Patsy, later wrote of his devotion so unremitting that even the servants were moved. In her final hours, Martha extracted a promise from Jefferson. He would never remarry. He gave his word and kept it for the remaining 44 years of his life. Why? Was it love? Or was there something else, a fear of what might happen in a household without a white mistress? We'll never know. But after Martha's death, Jefferson was shattered. He locked himself away, writing for hours in melancholy rambles. In 1784, hoping to escape his grief, he accepted a diplomatic post in Paris, taking his eldest daughter Patsy with him. His youngest daughter, Polly, remained in Virginia, too young, he thought, for the voyage. By 1787, Jefferson decided it was time to bring Polly to Paris. She was now 9 years old and needed a companion for the transatlantic journey. The person chosen was Sally Hemings, then just 14 years old. Imagine that voyage, a teenage enslaved girl, responsible for a child's safety, crossing an ocean to a foreign land. When they arrived in Paris, something extraordinary happened. Under French law, Sally Hemings was free. Slavery was not legal on French soil. She could have walked away, claimed her freedom, and built a new life. But she was 14, alone, and spoke no French. And there was Thomas Jefferson, 44, powerful, persuasive, and the legal owner of her entire family back in Virginia. What happened in Paris is where history becomes a haunting puzzle. We know Sally lived in Jefferson's household for more than 2 years. She learned French, was paid wages unthinkable in Virginia, and, according to her son Madison Hemings' later testimony, became pregnant. She was 16. Jefferson was 46. Madison Hemmings claimed that Jefferson made his mother a promise if she returned to Virginia with him, he would free all their children when they turned 21. They would be given trades, prepared for freedom. Why would she agree? Love, fear, calculation. Perhaps she believed him. Perhaps she thought of a family still enslaved at Monticello. Or perhaps a 16-year-old girl with no resources understood she had no real choice at all. In October 1789, as revolution swept through the streets of Paris, Jefferson returned to America. Sally Hemings returned with him. The child, a son, died young. But he was the first of 6 children Sally would bear over the next 18 years, all born during periods when Jefferson was documented to be at Monticello. The whispers began immediately. Visitors noted that Sally's children were white enough to pass for white and bore a striking resemblance to Jefferson. One wrote that a son of Sally's could be mistaken for the president in the dusk of evening, but in Virginia society, this was an open secret, something understood, never discussed. In 1802, journalist James Callender, a former ally turned vengeful enemy, blasted the story into public view. He accused President Jefferson of keeping an enslaved concubine named Sally, who had borne him several children. The scandal erupted. Jefferson's enemies pounced. His supporters defended him. And Jefferson himself said, "Nothing. Never a public denial. Never a lawsuit. Only silence and ambiguous private letters." At Monticello, an elaborate dance of discretion played out. Sally Hemings lived in the South, dependency present but invisible in official records. Her children were taught to read and write illegal in Virginia, trained in skilled trades, and treated differently from other enslaved people. When 2 of them, Beverly and Harriet, reached adulthood, they simply walked away, allowed to disappear into white society without pursuit. Jefferson's white family knew. His daughter Martha Jefferson Randolph managed the household, saw Sally and the children daily. His grandson later floated an alternative story. Perhaps Sally's children were fathered by Jefferson's nephews, Peter or Samuel Carr. It was a convenient deflection, one that would linger for generations. But the timeline betrayed them. Jefferson's own meticulous records placed him at Monticello precisely 9 months before each of Sally's children was born. The Carr brothers were often absent. The coincidence was too perfect, too consistent. Thomas Jefferson died on July 4, 1826, 50 years to the day after the Declaration of Independence. His will freed only 5 enslaved people, all Hemings relatives, including Sally's sons Madison and Eston. He did not free Sally herself. To do so would require a public petition to the Virginia legislature, an acknowledgement he could not make. Instead, 2 years later, his daughter Martha let her go. Sally lived out her final 9 years in freedom in Charlottesville, supported by her sons, in a silence she never broke. The story might have remained in the shadows forever if not for the persistence of memory and the precision of science. In 1873, Madison Hemings gave a newspaper interview, stating plainly that Thomas Jefferson was his father. For over a century, he was largely dismissed. Then, in 1998, DNA testing confirmed a genetic link between the Jefferson male line and the descendants of Eston Hemings. The evidence was undeniable. In 2000, the Thomas Jefferson Foundation at Monticello concluded, "The weight of evidence indicates that Thomas Jefferson was the father of all 6 of Sally Hemings's children." So what does this mean for us today? This story forces us to hold 2 painful truths at once: that Jefferson articulated ideals that inspired the world, and that he lived a life that betrayed those ideals. That America was founded on a promise of liberty, and that this promise was built on a foundation of brutal contradiction. We will never know what Sally Hemings truly felt, whether there was affection, resistance, resignation, or some complex mix of all 3. Her voice was erased by a system designed to silence her. But her story is not just about the past, it's about how we remember, who we choose to see, and what we are willing to confront. Monticello today no longer hides Sally Hemings. Her room is part of the tour. Her story is told. Descendants from both sides of this history have met there, a fragile, powerful step toward reconciliation. But the questions remain. How do we judge a man who helped shape freedom while denying it to his own children? Can we separate the ideals from the man? Or must we accept that greatness and moral failure can exist in the same person and in the same nation? This is the unsettling heart of American history. It's not a simple tale of heroes and villains. It's a story of flawed people, painful truths, and a legacy we are still learning to face. If you've made it this far, you understand that history is not just about dates and names, it's about the secrets we keep, the truths we avoid, and the courage it takes to finally look them in the eye. What do you think? How should we remember Thomas Jefferson now? Can a nation reconcile with the contradictions in its foundation? Share your thoughts below. If you want more stories that explore the hidden, uncomfortable layers of our past, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The truth is often buried, but it never stays hidden forever.